Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with my good friend Jon Peddie. Say hi to everybody, Jon.
Hello, hello.
All right, that's how we do our mic checks here. We just drop in. Jon is a good friend of mine, client from just a few years back.
Yeah.
How long ago do we work together, Jon?
It's got to be 20 years.
Got to be 20 years, yeah, at least. In any case, we're both younger at heart and spirit, even though I got a little bit of COVID here. So I sound a little nasally and old right now, but this youthful chicken over here is out are you in Tiburon today?
Yeah.
So Tiburon, California, where I'm born and raised, and I'm here in Boulder, Colorado, but we've been able to stay in touch and connect from time to time. Jon's someone that I really respect in the industry he's in, because he has always been someone that I've observed is just wake up, rinse, repeat, and do the same shit again, and like, this is just who I am, what I do. And at some point I started doing it well. So,
practice makes perfect.
Practice makes perfect. But maybe share a little bit, Jon, about what you are up to in the world these days with your career and as a grandfather, aside from loading them up with sugar and sending them back to their parents.
Yeah. So believe it or not, I'm a great grandfather.
Great. Oh, believe it or not.
Yeah. I have a great granddaughter in El Paso, Texas.
He's also a great guy.
I'm sorry?
You're also a great guy.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. She's a teenager now, so she's not going to like me as much as she used to. So you want me to just ramble, or do you have some?
Yeah, maybe just share a little bit about what you're up to as far as your career and what you do for a living. And
well, I actually have two careers. I realized this the other day when I started thinking about what you and I would talk about, and you used the word career, and it occurred to me that I have two, and the two careers are I'm a advisor, consultant, and so forth. I'd like to say when I give speeches that I used to have an honest job. I used to be an engineer. And so I've carried the engineering capability with me and interest, and use that when I'm advising companies. But I also am a serial entrepreneur, starting company after company after company, selling them, starting another one, et cetera, et cetera. But the other career that I have is I'm a writer. And I just inventoried my library. I've written 16 damn books, believe it or not, including
wow.
two fiction books. So and I enjoy doing that.
Speaking of that, on the book writing, by the way, I'm in the process of writing another new book. But I remember when I wrote one of my first books, I sat down with you and you're like, all right, well, now you got the easy part over with. It's like, now you got to just see if anybody wants to read this crap.
Right. It's just like video. It's for every minute of video that you take, you spend 10 minutes to a half an hour editing it. And it's the same way with writing. For every page you write, you spend days editing that page. But that's what makes it kind of fun. I mean, it's interesting, actually. Take your book, for example. This is a homework assignment for you.
Yeah, he's always giving me homework assignments.
Go
for all the homework assignments I made you do that you didn't want to do, all those stairs on the island.
Oh, those stairs. Open up your book randomly and read it critically. And here's what I guarantee you. You're going to say, oh shit, I said that? I could have done better than that. Oh Christ, there's a typo. Oh no. There is no escaping that stuff. But you will always write it better the second time, just like you'll do almost anything better the second time, because you learn, right?
Yeah, you've already expanded. Even the process, my experience was writing a book. You almost had to kill the book and save the rest of that in the parking lot for the next book, because through the process of writing the book, you're a completely different person, and your theories and concepts and things you've experienced have evolved. You've expanded.
There's another, talking about book writing, another aspect to it, for fiction. It doesn't apply to technical books, but for fiction, the good fiction writers say they don't really have a clear story when they start writing it. And they say, the characters will tell me how it's going to end. And it's true. I've experienced that, where when you're writing a fiction book, I don't know where it comes from, called the muse, but these ideas just come into your head as to how someone is saying something to someone else, and then what that means in terms of how they're going to relate to the other person, and the story just kind of writes itself.
Mm.
So if you get that, that's being in the zone, right? And if you can get that level of your writing, it's magic. It's wonderful. You don't want to stop, actually.
Mm. Yeah, my experience, the magic that you bring often is always this guy's got more shock and awe than most individuals. I remember I had a session with you and your woman at the
Yes.
time, who's now your full throttle lady friend, Kath. I remember you're like, hey, I told her she's in for a miserable workout. Give her the experience, but I'm taking her to Paris. I got a vehicle and a plan, and she thinks she's working out with you today, but I'm taking her for an adventure. And I don't know if you remember that back in the days.
Well, so she's an extraordinary person. She just got back a week ago from the third leg. She's done this now 3 times of walking across Spain.
I saw that.
And, she was doing 14, 15 miles a day. She totaled out at about 78 miles, which is the distance from San Francisco to Sacramento. If you can imagine walking to Sacramento, I can't imagine walking.
What's the name of that? What's the name of that particular trail that's very famous? Santo something, or?
Yeah, it's got a name which I can't remember, Coronado or something like that. But okay. She knows. Anyway, it was, and it wasn't flat road. She was going.
No.
And, so that's the kind of person she is now. She just is, I don't know, tough as nails.
So this is why this guy has to work extra hard. Yeah. Why he's so powerful, because he's got this. Your muse is like, oh man, how far are you walking?
Yeah. Geez, I made it all the way out to the mailbox the other day.
Yeah, right. He's out to the mailbox guy. So John, like, we were talking earlier about, the kind of kids we were growing up. Maybe share a little bit with the audience about, aside from the little shits that we were.
I was both blessed and cursed in that I had absentee parents. I considered myself an orphan, actually, because they just were gone.
Yeah, that was similar to me, latchkey kid.
So I pretty much did what I wanted to do, and it turned out that the things I did weren't always socially acceptable. So I had a few hard lessons I had to learn from what you can do and can't do, or what you shouldn't do if you get caught, and on like that. But I never lost sight of the fact, I don't know where I got it, probably from, osmosis from the other family members who all were trying to guide me and take care of me in view of my absentee parents. But the notion of education was firmly implanted in my head in an early age, very, very early age. And I read precociously early also. I was an early reader, and
I was a late reader, very late bloom reader. I read like 300 books in a year a couple of years ago, and but I had a reading disability, and had to overcome that. And but I hated reading. I was like, is there a movie on this? now I'm like a voracious reader, and like I'm out of
the Cliff Notes. Well, that's interesting. I was just diagnosed by a friend last week, actually.
I've had that already, diagnosis from friends.
No, let me finish up. He informed me, and Kathleen concurs, that I'm dyslexic. Now, I didn't know that, and I'm still not 100% sure, although there are letters that I have difficulty differentiating I's and L's and things like that. But I always attribute that to astigmatism and just, being impatient. But maybe I am dyslexic. But regardless of being dyslexic, if I am, I overcame it, right? Without even knowing I had to. I just, had to deal with it. So where was it going? Oh, I was going, so back to me being a brat. So anyway, I was always interested in, I was curious. I guess that's the real key. I was curious about things, and to learn about the things I was curious about, I had to read books, and I had to learn how to do math and so forth and so on. So my curiosity often got me in trouble, but it also got me a hell of a good education, both, streetwise and academically.
Yeah. And then, tell us a little bit about your street savviness.
Well, I grew up in the inner city of Philadelphia.
Inner city of Philadelphia. Okay.
Right.
So
and the only time I saw grass was when I went to a park. That's where grass was.
Yeah.
Never quite understood the need for grass, but there it was. So I went out and looked at it. To avoid getting my ass kicked, which was a regular thing, I would, go to the museums and see what was going on there. There was one museum in particular in Philadelphia called the Franklin Technical Institute, which I just loved. Had a full-size steam engine in it. Most amazing thing a 10-year-old kid could possibly see. Geez, I went there when I was 5. And here's this giant engine, right?
Yeah.
So I do that, and that kind of kept me out of harm's way for a lot of the time. But it was, getting from point A to point B was a war zone, and you either fought back or died, and and it was just kind of scary.
Yeah, it
So-
sounds like you fought back in life and found your path and started to make some good choices for yourself with your education and your fascinations. And yeah, so what did your educational path look like with how you?
Oh, it's wacko, and then because I was always moving around, so
Yeah.
I started school, formal academic school, when I was in the Air Force, and so I started out in Boise College in Boise, Idaho.
Mm.
And then I got out of the Air Force, and then I went to Philadelphia for a little while. And so I went to 3 schools in Philadelphia. I went to Temple, Drexel, and Penn State. And then I got an opportunity to help start a company in Texas. So I moved to Texas. And then I went to San Antonio College and the University of Texas. Took some classes at Denver U up there. And then I moved to California. So I started going to California schools, and I went to Santa Clara University and Stanford and Berkeley and so forth. So I picked up bits and pieces here and there and there and everywhere from all those schools, and collected a whole bunch of hours and credits and things like that. And suddenly I realized it was time to write a thesis, and I had to. I took my thesis and turned it into a book, and McGraw-Hill was going to publish it. They decided not to when they changed management. Management said, no, we don't want this now. So anyway, but I realized I could write a book. So
Yeah.
I did. Hey, here she comes. Hey, Kath. She's got these in. Kath, come here. You recognize him?
Yeah, how are you shaved? Hi.
Hey,
Coaches the
Hi,
camera.
Kath.
Here.
What's the name of the trail you were on?
Oh, the Camino de Santiago.
yeah, Camino de Santiago. There's a really great film, I guess. Was it Martin Sheen in that one?
Yeah, I haven't
Inspiring
seen
everybody
that.
to
I
get
have
after it.
watch that.
And now you weren't the only like solo pilot out there. It was like, oh man, there's a lot of people actually doing this.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then also the group I was in was about 14 people.
Mm.
Ages.
Oh, well, all of them, I think, were over 60.
All over
And,
60 and getting after it.
Most of them were, there's a big clump of them that were like 79, 80 stuff, but they kept going. They were behind us. They were a little slow, but they never quit. They were amazing.
Well, we got this whole background on John. I'll take care of. So he's now in the background now, and I'm like, oh, let's talk about Kath, because Kath's more interesting. And, she's
Really in the background.
Yeah.
yeah. So Kath, tell our audience a little bit about it. Don't worry, there's like 50,000 followers here. So tell our audience, how someone decides to do this Camino and do it a bunch of times.
Just want to get away from me.
That's the magic sauce.
There was a lot of that, yeah. But I did it through my gym, and I had a yoga class, and this yoga teacher I like, Erin Fleming. Did you ever meet Erin?
At the Bay Club?
Yeah.
No.
Anyway, she and you probably wouldn't, because she's more yin yoga, more relaxed. She's not really, into your thing, but it's really good stretching and stuff. Anyway, and she has a bug for travel, so she puts together these trips, and they're great. They're always great. So some yoga stretching, and then like this walk or something like that. And so I've gone to a couple of them.
Yeah.
A tough one, and I did some tough duty in Hawaii one time.
Oh, really?
She walked up that mountain in Hawaii.
No, we didn't.
Yes, you did.
Well, I did, but that was a different thing. Yeah, I did. Yeah, we did go for a company too. And so they had us walk up the side of the volcano, but it wasn't all that hard, you know. It was a well-marked trail.
Yeah. So what is that? What do you experience aside from the accomplishment? You know, this journey that we're on. You know, I experience and I share with people in life that it's a lot about making climbs. You know, and
Yeah,
often my experience with climbs is you get a seat at the big table for a moment, and then
yeah.
you look around and
And
you
then
see
there's
all the
another
other.
climb.
Then you got to go back down and do the next climb. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, and so what's something that, you know, I always feel like it's not really about the accomplishment, as more about who I become, what parts of myself I shed off, and what kind of transpires kind of, you know, there's this physical exertion, but then there's what's transpiring on the inside, what's going through another evolution, so to speak.
Well, you know, and that's a really good topic for discussion since I've just gotten back and I remember really well. But it's true. I keep doing that trip. You know, we did, like, it was in 3 parts, so we eventually did the whole Camino.
Yep.
And the reason I kept doing it was because I started out doing it just to see if I could do it. You know, if I was, and I could. Most of it's not really hard hiking, but it's also kind of unpleasant. You're going through cities, you're going through, you know, the outskirts of cities and on highways, and some of that's not so great. And but you just, you know, you just keep plodding along, and I found that to be satisfying after a while. And then when I went with this older group, the really interesting thing I found is we all had our aches and pains, right? You know,
Yep.
I've been doing tons of work on my feet and my back and stuff, and there were
Yep.
other ladies that had things going on. And all of us found that our usual aches and pains really kind of decreased. We added on some new ones, you know, some muscle soreness and stuff like that.
How much of that was endorphins?
I don't know. I don't know. It balanced out somehow, though, I think, is part of it. That we were doing more stuff, and I think we were getting much healthier overall. So that helped strengthen us, you know. So those things that in our backs or our feet or whatever weren't quite so bad.
And attitude. I mean, you had a positive attitude. You were gung ho.
Well, that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, like I had a bad attitude at sometimes to make sure I really recognize the positive attitude.
Oh yeah, the minute it starts raining, my attitude gets real bad.
So,
but also,
I mean,
I think I was so impressed by these other people, and I kind of grew up a little bit too, because at first I was like wanting to be out in front. I don't want to hang back, and you know, I gotta go, and I became so amazed at how strong they were, and that I really wound up hanging back a lot and talking and finding out more about them, and it was really inspiring.
Tell them about the jock. They did the same thing.
Here, why don't you sit forward too, John? You can jump into the.
If he wants to talk so bad, don't you think he should get his face again?
Yeah, he's like, I'm holding back myself here so I can hold back. he's a backseat driver, so that's all. So
the camera can only see one of us at a time. So.
Okay, got it. That's all right though. That's all right. So we'd rather look at Kathleen.
But
I would think it'd be fair to say I noticed that with everybody. You know, a lot of that just, I got to get there first. I got to get to the top first, sort of faded back. And partly because we were getting tired, maybe, but the other part was just to be part of the whole experience rather than the
journey, not the
rather than this personal thing you had in your head, you know.
Okay, so there was like this dissolving of the ego as you got further along the journey, and then
I think there's a lot of that,
and thinning out of your own itinerary and agenda to like what's wanting to happen and just being present with things unfolding more.
Well, and that had, and that was, a lot of the yoga we were doing kind of brought that to the fore too, like we did a labyrinth at one point, and we all took something with us that we wanted to leave on the trail, no more of this, let's just let it go. And again, I always find those things sort of, that's not really my style, but when I do it, I think, oh, that was good, I feel lighter.
What was the most important thing you brought on your journey with you, aside from your winning personality?
What was it? Good shoes. I bought new shoes. Yeah.
Good shoes, most important.
And I can tell you too, the thing I regret is I brought way too many clothes.
Way too many clothes.
and I mean, because really on this trail, you know, I was looking at other people that were backpacking, and they didn't have those huge monster backpacks that you typically associate with these trips. They were pretty small, you know, because there's little inns and stuff, so you can wash your stuff on the way. So yeah, I was thinking I could have gotten away with maybe another pair of shoes and like 2 pairs of pants, 2 shirts, underwear, and that, you know, and wouldn't be. But also, I must confess that we had a cute little bus that picked us up, so we didn't have to worry about all our crap.
Yeah, some things were taken care of for you there.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
So is it what's next on the horizon coming off of this? What's kind of getting seated?
Well, I am trying to get retired. Did John tell you?
No, we didn't get there yet.
Yeah, I'm retiring as best I can, except that, you know, it's a mistake to be married to the boss.
Yes. For those of you viewers out there, I don't know how the setup is now, but when I remember back in the days up there, just for the letting the police know in Tiburon up on the Lyford Drive, there's
Yeah,
a
that's right,
sweat,
yeah.
there's a sweatshop.
There is a sweatshop. Well, the sweatshop's all gone now because of COVID. So
Yeah.
I'm the only other person sweating up here.
Yeah,
It's now
yeah.
all remote work.
Everybody's working at home.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, this retirement thing is an ongoing process. And I think it is anyway, just because it's hard to let things go.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
she has a passion.
No.
She
Well,
had
John and I were just talking about how you know, how little shits we were growing up, wondering how, if you were like a mean-spirited kid or what kind of kid you were growing up, you know, and maybe sharing a little bit as well.
You
with
know,
our
isn't that
audience.
interesting? I think I was kind of a bullied kid. I feel like, as I remember, all the other kids were mean to me.
Okay, they were mean. to you.
But I always wonder, it'd be nice to send out a survey sometime, you know.
Check,
Is this true or not? Because I also do remember some lamentable times when I was mean to somebody, you know, and you know, I mean, you know how those things come back at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, and you go, why did I do that? So, you know, so I couldn't have been all that oppressed. I got a few of my shots in.
Were you an adventurous kid? I mean, you're quite the adventurer now. Were you so adventurous back in the days?
Yeah, we lived on bikes. You know, that was the time where, you know, the parents threw you out and said, don't come home till dark. And
Yeah,
so
that was
we
my
had a pack.
generation.
Yeah, boys and girls all on our bikes. So, and I still
Yeah.
love riding bikes.
Yeah, so you've been living you've always been a fairly active person. Your lifestyle has been always kind of health conscious and proactive.
Yeah,
And
I never would have thought of myself that way, but as we're talking, I'm thinking, yeah, I was on the swim team,
Yeah.
mostly because there weren't many people on the swim team and I could swim. But still, you know, once I started doing it, I found joy in it. And
She played golf. She played tennis. She would have played.
Not well,
She would have
no.
played football if they'd let her on the team.
No. But basketball, I like to play. But anyway, you know, I mean, yes, you're right. I was active, but I didn't really think of myself that way because, you know, it really wasn't very cool. So
what was cool back in school? What was the cool thing for you?
well, I went to a Catholic girls' school.
Catholic girls' school.
So yeah, so what was cool was
I already heard
like,
John in the background. He's like, "Yep, those Catholic schoolgirl outfits were cool."
yeah. Yeah, it was cool. You know, it was rolling them up to be as short as they could possibly be, you know, and
Yeah.
sneaking makeup when you know, it's that was just enough to make you look good, but the nuns wouldn't spot and stuff like that. But it was kind of a lamentable time in a way, because being cool sort of meant participating in as little as possible, you know, speaking up as little as possible, you know, and stuff like that. It was so I think we're in a better era now.
And then you moved out of you know, that arena as far as your education. Then what continued on further with your education? What were things that you began to start exploring deeper as your
Well,
your own
I went to a small Catholic school outside of Dallas, and which was probably a mistake. But then I went to study abroad in Italy, and that was one of the most influential things in my life, you know, and to discover there's a whole nother world, and they eat all different food and all this stuff, you know. So
Different word for everything.
yeah, they have a different word for everything. And I wound up.
How would they do that?
Yeah. So I wound up, when I came back, I went to UCLA, and it was just so, you know, to a big college where there are lots of different ideas and
Tell
everything.
what you said.
And that was the coolest. I think that, you know, I mean, that blasted me out of my little comfortable capsule that I was headed for.
Yeah, and then John was just asking, like, what were the things that you were studying? What was most
Oh, I was an English major.
English major?
Yeah, my uncle.
No, she was a film minor though. She knows all about.
Oh, I
film.
did. Well,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I
No.
got entranced by Italian film. And yeah, we worked, we had a really good teacher. You know, you have one of those influential teachers, and he was teaching Italian neorealism. And so then we all became teachers' assistants and helped him write his book. And that was also another great experience. And that was also enhanced by the fact that I went to Italy, you know, so I loved Italy anyway, and languages and trying to learn languages, though I can't say that I'm very good at it. But
Yeah,
you
I
know,
wish
Mhm.
I wish I had gotten into Italian film. Obviously, I grew up loving Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns and a little bit of Life is Beautiful.
I love those too, yeah.
My barricade for my wisdom on Italian films. There might be a few others in there, but studying foreign film, yeah, it's got to be something that's just, you know, you having traveled, and then you continue to, and you guys, your career has been a lot of travel.
Yeah, yeah.
So very, very expansive outside the box of what most people, you know, take for granted here is like, well, why would they go and, you know, have another, you know, word for that?
Well, yeah, you know, when you foreign film is kind of cool because it's like it's immersive. You know, you get to see how people live and talk and all that in places you have no idea about. And so, and then of course it's thrilling when it's about a place you've been too. So but yeah, I think film study is always a really good thing for like students to do or people to do. And I think that's growing too, because with the like Netflix and all that, we're getting movies and stuff from all over the world.
With subtitles.
Yeah, people are learning how to read subtitles.
Well, how have these studies, how did English help you with John, working with John?
Oh, how did I get into technology?
Yeah, how did you end up the work you guys do, and maybe share a little bit about what your role's been, because you guys have been, you know, I mean, it's a long time coming for retirement. So
yeah. Oh, well, we took different paths, but while I was still in Texas, I was working for a computer magazine. First I started working for an alternative news weekly, you know, like the Weekly or whatever you have in Boulder.
yeah.
And but then that doesn't pay real well. So I wound up working for a technical magazine on CAD. And so I did that, and
yeah, but before that, she used to repair the damn typesetting machine.
Oh yeah, I did that when I was at the News Weekly.
Wow.
We had all these crappy had to figure out how to fix them because we never had any money, and the repairman only came once a year or something.
You just had to learn how to do it.
Yeah, and he left us like a suitcase full of boards, you know, PCB boards to so we like try plugging them in to see if that would fix stuff. Sometimes it worked.
Oh.
But anyway,
Wow.
yeah, I discovered sort of that I had more of a technical bent than I would have thought. And I like doing that now a lot. And so we wound up, I was doing computer aided design, writing about that stuff. And John was becoming an expert in hardware. So when we met each other, we had a pretty nice set of skills that dovetailed well.
Yeah. And then, gosh, I'm trying to think of the business when we first met, what you guys were doing. I think with his writing and just you guys had these very complementary skill sets. At the same time, yeah, you both had this, just both very impassioned with your different avenues. And
yeah, well, you know, we both love to travel too. So we had clients all over the world. So we'd go talk to them about what they were doing and how they were doing it. And sometimes we advised them, and sometimes they advised us. And I still love that a lot, you know, but I got pretty tired of traveling, and we live in the most beautiful place in the world, except that yours is pretty good.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm enjoying, I want to see more of where I live and hang out more. And
so just
come on in here. I gotta go cook breakfast.
Well, you can comment. So I don't know. Yeah, okay. So just before COVID hit.
I love this, how we go in the background.
Yeah, I can turn that off. But anyway, so just before COVID hit, we went to Egypt and Jordan and traveled around there. We followed Lawrence Arabia's trail a little bit. We saw the dam and everything.
Wow.
Talk about different. We sat in the desert and drank tea with Bedouins.
Bedouins, yeah, it was fun. That
Oh,
was
Just like the movie. Wow.
Yeah, but
Uh-huh.
we kept facing them the whole time. We never put our backs. So they,
No, they're really nice people. They're super into hospitality, you
Yeah.
know. So they're always saying, you know, come sit down, have some tea. You know, I mean, it's great.
we got to talk to these guys in Jordan, and we said, you know, well, how do you guys get along here? And he said, we're a very quiet country surrounded by very noisy neighbors.
Yeah, I still remember some advice from you about just even with all the travel that you guys do and have been doing back in the days. I just remember you're like, when you get off the plane, make sure you get that sun directly on the back of your legs, and you won't feel all hung over from your flight.
Jet lag, yeah.
I'm not so sure that works, but yeah.
You know, it does. You trick your brain into what time it is, and there's various sensors on your body that you have to light up.
Somewhere for many years, I had all these Johnisms written down. So
Oh, well, he'll write them again for you. This again is so
I'll
cool
write 'em for
seeing
you.
you again, but I'm gonna head upstairs and cook breakfast.
do as well. We'll
so-
see you soon, Kath. Okay,
Bye,
great.
people.
It's GPs, Glenn's people. Hey, you want this?
What? Oh, yeah.
So where were we before we were so rudely interrupted?
Great. Well, yeah, this is all we manufactured this. This was a planned event.
Oh, could have clued
well,
me in.
Yeah, I think we were talking a little bit just about just kind of your path and you know, your evolution through different iterations of business and through some of the you know, things that it started shaping you and moving you in different directions. Like people always come to me and say, hey, when, you know, there must have been like a pivotal moment for you. I'm like, I kind of just bumped into the next thing that made sense of where I was at.
Yeah.
So
A lot of people have careers like that where they follow the path of opportunity, or at least resistance, maybe. It's a rare individual, and they're usually musicians, by the way. It's a rare individual who will really sacrifice a lot in pursuit of their passion. I mean, lots of people have passion, they want to do things, but practicality, you know, and house payments and children and what have you get in the way of them pursuing the passion that they have for a particular subject. So that, but like I say, the exception being writers and musicians, people who just, you know, can live without all that. And then they look up one day and they say, holy cow, I'm famous and rich. How'd that happen?
yeah. Now you've got you know, you've had how many grandkids now, or great grandkids now we're on?
I have to stop and count. I don't know. I think I have 6 or 8 grandkids. I can't remember.
Grandkids. Yeah. Yeah. What have you kind of learned from just being a family man and having been, you know, remarried? And
I have learned that whenever I am in a really, really tight spot that I can't get out of, and the zombies are just about to kill me, I call my grandson and say, get me out of here. And he takes over the computer and deals with the zombies. Then I go back and finish the game.
Yep. So relying on
That's a
family.
true story. So
Yeah,
what I've learned is that the kids today, my favorite quote from a movie, these Utes, right? The kids today are genuinely different. You know, you think the younger generation is always the younger generation. They're always going to be rebellious and they're always going to be stupid and and so forth. And, you know, every parent repeats that for every generation. These kids are different. And one of the reasons they're different is because they have lived through and or grown up with 2 of the most, maybe 3 of the most significant technological developments since the steam engine. And that's, excuse me, that's the PC, the internet, and the smartphone. And these are transformational devices that have completely altered the way we think, the way we act. You know, kids don't learn how to write cursive anymore. Right. They can't even read it, is half the time, right? They're not learning the multiplication tables. Why the hell should they? You know, they've got it right here whenever they need it. And so that's changed the way their brains are wired. But at the same time, and the other thing that's really difficult to talk to some people about is our kids are less repressed. And one of the reasons they're less repressed is because they've seen naked women since they were 2 years old, not their moms either, right? I mean, porn has been all over TV and smartphones and everywhere else. So it's not a forbidden fruit like it was for the older generation, which is where all the perverts are. I'm sorry, I don't think the kids today are going to grow up to have the population perverts that we have now, because they are not repressed, because this is just normal life as it should be. So they're just different. They're wired differently, and they are socially educated differently.
Yeah, definitely a different generation than us, and yet we're still having these crazy problems with shoot ups at schools, and you know, when you think about repression of, like, okay, what's getting expressed, what's getting repressed, what, there's all these incredible sufferings in the world, and then also these incredible movements of change that are being brought forth to the surface now, and given attention, not just in, with media, but everybody's got a microphone now. Everybody has got something to say. And I think from our generation, there was a lot more listening to who the authorities were, and then you pass judgment on those things, and say, hey, if I had a way, I would do it this way. And that's probably what spawned a bit of the rebel in me, because I just thought, hey, this doesn't sound like my way, or the completely right way. And now there's constant bombardment now. Now it's not just the news media, but now you got everybody's like, hey, I'm with whatever my WK station is, and public, getting that out to the universe. What is your experience with having had a generation of kids, grandkids, and now this younger generation now, with where the world's going and technology, and what you've written about for years, and the evolution? Like, what else are you seeing? What else are you seeing that not necessarily is problematic, but is where we're going? For someone who's been studying technology and writing about it for forever.
We have a real dichotomy in our population, I guess is the way to describe it, and specifically in the United States, although I think it would include, say, North America and Europe. And the dichotomy is that we have one group of people who are willfully ignorant, and another group of people who are doing the most amazing, unbelievable scientific discoveries and developments. And they are not just polar opposites. They can't even talk to each other. They can't imagine each other.
Yeah.
I mean, you go talk to some people who are doing some of this fantastic medical science or scientific investigation, or people at NASA and people like that, and tell them about some of the nut jobs out there who think the most important thing is to have 15 guns and more tattoos than you have teeth, and there is no common language between them. And what that results in is the gap just keeps getting wider and wider and wider. And I don't see any way to bridge it. I mean, not my job to figure it out, but I don't know who could bridge it and say, listen to this guy, listen to this guy. Maybe you don't agree, but just listen to each other so you understand what their problems and their issues are. We don't have that anymore. It's now us versus them. And that goes from top to bottom, all the way up to the, President of the United States, all the way down to the taxi driver.
And it seems like these things lived underneath the surface for many years, but they've been now punched up, 10
they've been encouraged. They've been released.
Been released. Yeah, the Kraken's been released. So now with these gaps, and being that you and I both see, like, who's going to close these gaps? So if these gaps aren't going to close, then, and they're just going to keep expanding, keep more, multiplying.
Well, the problem is that the expansion is a function of leadership. And
Right.
so as long as the leaders exploit these people, which is what they're doing,
Right.
then they're not going to try and, push them over from one side to the other to get
Right.
to a compromised position. We lost a compromised, and compromise sounds a funny way to say it, but we lost a political body of compromise for a common solution probably in the 60s.
Okay.
Up until then, it was deal making, and maybe it was dirty deal making in the back room, but deals were made. I give a little bit, you give a little bit. Now it's winner take all. I either kill you or you kill me.
Right.
And until the leaders change that attitude, the followers can't. So we need a lot of deaths. We need a lot of people that are in high positions and been there too long to die.
Because there's no benefit for them to change.
No, they know, and they know where the money's coming from, right? I mean, NRA is having their big event in Houston right now. Who's at that NRA event? Everybody with their hand out, give me some money, NRA, right? That's all they're there for, not because they necessarily support NRA's policies or their patrons. They're just there to get the money so they can stay in power and do what they've been doing, and that's got to change. And I'm on my soapbox now, so push me off.
Yeah, no, appreciate your viewpoint on this, and obviously the media in recent days it's very hot subject, and I have friends on both sides, and then offshoots of both those sides, into like there goes 50 more sides. Yeah. And so not necessarily compromising, but just a whole nother iteration of things, and I've kind of always taken this kind of agree to disagree, like, hey, like if I already know my perspective, like if I can listen to yours and receive yours, no matter how radical it is from my point of view, I now have multiple perceptions. I'm a little wiser. I have a little more to contribute. I can hold space for and hold space for what needs to happen next. I'm one of the people that, like, hey, I can come without judgment and openness and availability to be in conversation.
If you can do that, that's that nominates you for sainthood.
Yeah, not for a political position, but so yeah, I think I guess that's the challenge. As you both you and Kathleen have been getting older and moving towards retirement, and having watched the industries shift and change, what does it come down to with yourself, your relationship with yourself versus just your industry and your passion, your business? Like what's changed as you've matured and taking your focus, from your heavy contribution hand and what lights you up to, you're at a different, like I always tell people, it's like, I'm turning 50 here soon, and in that, I only got so many more Wednesdays left, and what's going to be the impact of my choices going forward when I'm not so consumed with my identity structure that I've invested so much in throughout the years, when it's now more about hollowing out myself and showing up as a unique expression, but a unique form of listening to what's presently unfolding, and getting myself out of the way. So I'm curious to what you've kind of learned at this latter stage of life, being that you got a few years up on me and can warn me of what's to come.
I have shoes older than you are.
True.
Actually, my kids are older. But anyway, so I think, if you don't learn and evolve over time, then you're just using up oxygen. You're just wasting your little spot of the earth that you're standing on. But I don't think there's very many people who don't. I shouldn't make a judgment like that, I guess. I think back when I was in my 20s and my kids were babies.
Yeah.
I was not the absentee dad that I didn't have, but I was in their face all the time about, you should do this and you should do this and you should do that, right? And so forth. And we got to a certain point in time where I grew up and I realized I can't make them live the life I didn't live. and be what I'm disappointed about not being. I can't do that. I can't, there's no way I can force them to do that. And fortunately, I pulled back and let them become their own people. And they became totally different people than what I would have prescribed for them or wanted for them, right? But pat myself in the back right now. They are the most independent, and they're all successful, by the way. They're the most independent people. One of them had a little difficulty a couple of years ago, and I immediately got my checkbook out and said, "How can I fix this?" And they looked at me like I had just come from the moon. They said, "Did I ask you to fix anything?" And that's their attitude. I didn't ask you to help. I'll handle this. I thought, God damn, I built independent kids. They can take care of themselves. They don't need a helicopter dad. And that makes me very proud to think about that.
Yeah, you've definitely done a good job with raising your kids and raising yourself.
Yeah. We grew up together.
Yeah. Well, you're someone that's learned a lot from your kids, and you're like, all right, that's about as much harm I'm going to do to this kid, trying to send them in my direction of cleaning up my past, and I'll let them find their own trajectory and support that, and whatever that looks
and
like.
They're all loving people. In fact, I told my middle daughter, I wish the hell she had been my mother. She's such a great mom.
Beautiful. Well, John, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to go online and look at some of your writing and
well, I can't imagine that they would, but it's pretty obtuse. But anyway,
if it's a real late night, so
yeah,
very,
I'm
very...
so bored. I got to do something. So I'm Jon, Jon Peddie, Peddie, and that's my email is john@jonpeddie.com, and the website is johnpeddie.com, also www.johnpeddie.com. So pretty, if you can remember the spelling of the two names, then you can work every combination and find me somewhere.
Yeah, I think it took me a few years when we started working together back in the days. I was like, I'm never going to get this right. Well, we got a few things right together. I just want to say thank you for being on this call today and just spending some time together. It's always feels such a lot of love and just good humor and just simplicity of life and appreciation. Just appreciate you, John, and who you are, and the impact you've had. Such an enormous impact on my life, far more than I could imagine that it had in your life.
Oh no, if it wasn't for you, I would have never seen Robert Redford sweat.
Oh yeah. I kicked a few celeb butts back in the days.
Remember Redford and I were standing in the gym after you had just worked us both out. We just looked at each other like, what the
we paid this guy
to abuse us.
We paid him to abuse us. Yeah. That was it was good for the ego back in the days.
You need to go drink some tea and take a nap. Listen to you.
Yeah, I sound worse than I am. I just like I said, I finally got hit with the COVID, and but nobody's catching it via this channel here.
Yeah, we're safe. No masks needed.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you, John, and thank you to everybody out there. Thanks for putting up with my nasally voice today, and just tune in for the next episode, and we'll get John and get Kathleen back at least. We'll get Kathleen back.
Get someone interesting.
But thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.
All righty. Great talking with you, Glenn.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye now.